Hey, what is going on, guys? This is the SS Ultimate Goku back with another video, and I'm just gonna cut right to it. Um, as you guys know, yesterday during Monday Night Football, of all things, I did not watch Monday Night Football last night, um, but apparently during the broadcast, stuff came out about Jon Gruden, worse than what happened Friday when the original insensitive tweet or not tweet, I'm sorry, email came out that was leaked from the Washington Redskins investigation. Um, there was leaked emails. Basically, there were leaked emails during an investigation that they're doing on the Washington franchise, and because of that, that's how they found out about this email. Well, it turns out there's more that came out on Monday, and so because of this, Jon Gruden resigned. Um, you know, it really pisses me off because even though I don't like the Raiders, obviously, as a football team, I hate the Raiders as a team. Um, but I always respected Jon Gruden because he's real. He's not this BS coach that just like stands in the press conference and just gives dumb answers and you know and kind of tries to pretend to stay calm and stuff like that. I don't like coaches like that. I like coaches like Jim Mora, even though I don't like Mike Ditka because he was a Bears coach. I respected his attitude, Rex Ryan. I like coaches that are like, that tell it like it is. They're real. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what Jon Gruden is. He's kind of real in that sense. But I can't get behind him anymore. I can't respect him anymore after this crap that he did. It's really unfortunate. And this dude, okay, Jon Gruden is a Super Bowl winning quarterback with the Buccaneers. Um, and of course, he was gone for a while as a head coach. He left to go to ESPN and be a Monday Night Football analysis play-by-play guy for a number of years. Gets back into the NFL as the Raiders coach. He signed, and to my understanding, you guys correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe he still was the highest paid NFL head coach in the history of the NFL. This guy, at the time when he signed with the Raiders for his second run as a head coach for the Raiders, he was given a 10-year contract worth $100 million. $100 million. And I believe still to this day, he had the highest paid contract. This is from 4 years ago, and he's still in that contract. $100 million. $100 million for this guy. Now, keep in mind, all these emails were from 2011, before he became the Raiders head coach, before he got the $100 million 10-year contract. Okay, when he was still working for Monday Night Football and being a play-by-play guy at ESPN. And that's when all these emails were written to Bruce Allen, the Washington franchise. When it was Washington's Bruce Allen, who was the president for the Washington Redskins at the time, he was sending these emails. And again, these emails are unacceptable. And obviously we say dumb crap when we're younger, and But the thing is, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, this is just a perfect example of cancel culture." This is not a perfect example of cancel culture at all. You guys know I don't really like cancel culture. I think it is taken way too. People take it too literally. I do not like people being canceled for dumb things. Um, but in terms of this issue, I think it is justifiable that Jon Gruden should be canceled. Um, like I said, I hate cancel culture. I hate that people that do dumb things years ago um, are canceled on things that are, different from back then. It turns in the contents and whatnot. But with Jon Gruden, okay, yeah, it was back in 2011. Yeah, it was before he was the Raiders head coach for the second time. But here's the thing: 2011 wasn't that far long ago for Jon Gruden. Jon Gruden is a grown ass man. Okay, well, how old is he? He's 58 years old right now. Okay, so in 2011 he would have been what, like 50? You know what I mean there? Whatever the age was, and maybe his late 40s. Um, he wouldn't have been that much younger. Okay, he's a grown ass man in 2011, just like how he's a grown ass man right now in Las Vegas, in the Las Vegas Raiders. Okay, so I don't see why people are like shocked by this. Okay, and you know what? He resigned obviously because he was gonna get fired. Okay, there's no way about it. He was gonna get fired, if not suspended. He was over. He was done. There's no way you go back into that locker room with all these emails. One email was bad. Maybe he could have gotten past it, and I think he would have. I think the team would have eventually passed if that had been the only email. It was still a bad comment. Describing Demora Smith, the union representative for the NFLPA, as using a stereotype, using the stereotype lip slur, um, which is totally insensitive and totally wrong. With all those, old cartoons used to do that shit. That is totally insensitive, and he should be ashamed of himself for saying that. But it was one email. Maybe it was just a spur of the moment, and whatever. And they try to get past that. But then when all these other things come out, that there was a pattern, not just this email, but other racist emails. Calling Goodell the Q word. Even though I don't like Roger Goodell as a commissioner, I think he's the worst commissioner ever. I would never say that to him. I would never say that about him, or anyone for that matter. And that's just totally insensitive. Like I said, when people use this argument, oh, it was years ago. I mean, I could understand if, he was still in high school or a teenager or something like that, because, I've had to go through struggles too. When I was in school, it was a much different society than it is today compared to what stuff were accepted back then to what it is today. But there's no excuse for Jon Gruden. Jon Gruden's a grown-ass man. He's grown up. He wasn't a teenager at the time this was going on. He was in his late 40s or early 50s, okay? So there's no justification for what he was saying. There is no justification for him to have learned about why this is wrong, okay? He should have already known, okay? There's no justification for this at all, okay? Apparently, because as you know, Washington is under investigation, and there were allegations about cheerleaders being forced to be posed in very, very inappropriate ways. Apparently, there were emails that were sent to Gruden from Bruce Allen about these pictures that the cheerleaders have put on allegations towards Washington, which is what led to the investigation of the Washington franchise. And to think about this right now, guys, think about this right now. If Washington weren't under investigation for, the bad stuff that they were doing in their franchise workplace, Jon Gruden would have never been found out about any of this. None of this stuff would have ever been found out. They found this out completely inadvertent because of another team's misconduct. Okay, again, this was back when he was working for ESPN, which how poetic is it? It is completely coincidental. Well, how poetic is it that he resigned on Monday Night Football? He resigned during Monday Night Football because that was where he was working for 7 years. During when he wasn't head coaching anymore, because he had been a head coach. He had been a head coach until 2009, after he got fired from Tampa Bay, and then he was an ESPN play-by-play guy for Monday Night Football for 7 years, and then he was back as a head coach for the Raiders. How poetic is it that he got fired on Monday Night Football, or technically didn't get fired, but he would have gotten fired had he not resigned. But, I mean, you know, the way the Raiders played on Sunday, they played like crap. And it was a very good indication that the locker room lost trust in Jon Gruden. Even though they weren't going to admit it because the players are never going to admit that, they lost their confidence in Gruden. Gruden is the head coach. He's the head man of the team. All right, he's making the play calls and making all the PR decisions for the games. Going into that game with that one insensitive email 2 days before the game already screwed the locker room. And they lost to an inferior team, a team that they should have easily beaten. The Bears are not a good football team, and the Raiders are looking like a good football team up to this point. This is the first game where they really looked bad. You know, in all the games that they played this year so far, they looked really good. This is the first game where they looked bad. They couldn't do anything against the Bears, and the Bears are not a good team this year. They're a rebuilding team. You know, it was a clear indication that he had lost the locker room, even though the players wouldn't admit it. Now you move forward to Monday, and all these other emails. Again, we only had the one insensitive email by that time with the whole him using the stereotype lip slur. Okay. Then we have all this other stuff. You know, him calling Jeff Fisher, you know, who was the head coach for the St. Louis Rams at the time, you know, an FAG for drafting Michael Sams, who, for anybody who doesn't know who Michael Sams is, Michael Sams was a guy who was in college that was openly gay. He came out as openly gay upon entering the NFL draft. He was drafted in the 7th round by Jeff Fisher, and he didn't make the team. He wasn't good enough. He didn't make the team. But, you know, Jeff Fisher gave him a shot, though. He drafted him in the 7th round, you know, which is the last round in the draft. So he gave him a chance. Unfortunately, he couldn't make the team. You know, making the NFL is a very hard business, especially when you're a 7th round pick. But the fact that he would even call Jeff Fisher that, you know, who was at the time a very respected head coach. Not many people really so much like Jeff Fisher anymore, because of how terrible he had played the last couple of years as a head coach. But at the time, Jeff Fisher was a well-respected coach and was open to minorities and stuff like that. And for Gruden to say that to him, I find this very fascinating that this had been just leaked now. So I don't know exactly the full contents of everything else, but those were the things that I had heard he had said. But most importantly, to cap this all off, Carl Nebers, I believe that's how you say his last name, 3 months ago, who's currently on the Las Vegas Raiders football team, came out as openly gay. He's the first NFL player to come out as openly gay. And he's on Jon Gruden's team. How do you come back to that locker room when you have an openly gay player on your team, the first ever openly gay NFL player, active NFL player on the team? You know, a lot of African Americans on the team. You also have, I believe there's a strength trainer coach, correct me if I'm wrong on this, that's also a woman. The first ever strength training coach as a woman on the Raiders. Okay, so You got three elements right there, and emails from Gruden of him basically making very, very insensitive stuff to these minorities. Okay? Not to mention the Raiders franchise. The Raiders franchise is built of minorities. They had the first ever minority head coach, the Latino Hispanic coach who won him a Super Bowl. Florence, yeah. First African American ever head coach was hired by the Raiders. And you gonna tell me that this is cancel culture? I'm gonna tell you something right now, and this is a fact. Al Davis, the owner, or the owner of the Raiders, the longtime owner of the Raiders, Mike Davis, obviously his son, took over the team once he retired, or once he not retired, once he passed away. Do you really think Al Davis, the man who traded Jon Gruden in his first run to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, okay, back in the early 2000s, okay, do you really think if Al Davis had been alive right now, do you really think he would have put up with this? Do you really think he would have been gone right away? I know Mike Davis, Al Davis's son, wanted him really badly, and that's why he overpaid for him. But do you really think Al Davis would have accepted Jon Gruden after all that stuff came out, considering the fact that Al Davis had a history of hiring minorities? Again, first ever minority coach was Hispanic. Won them a Super Bowl. Hired the first ever African American head coach to replace him once he retired. Do you really think Al Davis would have been okay with this? Al Davis is probably rolling in his grave right now. Okay. At this. As far as I'm concerned. And you know what? I know some people are going to say that this is a little conspiracy here, but you know what? Based on what he said in all those emails, I want to put this out there. I think he got rid of the previous general manager, who was African American, by the way, Reggie McKinley, who used to play for the Raiders as a linebacker. He was their general manager before Jon Gruden came on. He was their general manager after Al Davis had unfortunately passed away, because Al Davis was his own GM. Like, Al Davis was the GM of the Raiders. He was the owner and the GM. He never hired a GM. But after Al Davis passed away, they had to hire a GM because Mike Davis doesn't know how to run a team like Al Davis did. Not to say that Al Davis was exactly good in his last decade as general manager, because he wasn't. But they had to hire a general manager to replace Al Davis, because Al Davis was his own GM as being the owner of the team. So they had Reggie McKinley in there as the GM, okay, who was a Packers PR guy for a while, for my Green Bay Packers. He went to Oakland Raiders, as it was called at the time. Goes there, puts in some guys, and once Gruden comes in there, Gruden basically takes over. He basically takes over, and basically Reggie McKinley, the GM, had to basically listen to Al Davis, and he basically forced him to trade key players that he drafted. What was that guy? Who was that guy that McKinley had, but Al Davis didn't, or not Al, I'm sorry, Jon Gruden didn't like him, and so they traded him to the Bears. Wasn't there, I forgot who it was now, but there was a guy that they traded. I'm trying to remember who it was. You guys can remember. Let me know in the comments. I can't think of it, and I don't have it pulled up right now. But I remember that there was a trade. They traded him for the Bears, and then I think it was like shortly after that, um, Jon Gruden got him fired, um, or whatever, because they weren't going to fire Gruden because Gruden had a 10-year contract. So they put all the blame on McKinley. They put everything on McKinley for it, and he got fired, and then they hired Mike Mayock. Now I like Mike Mayock. Mike Mayock was a really good path to the draft analyst on the NFL Network. I liked Mike Mayock, but I think Reggie McKinley was outed because Jon Gruden's a racist. I mean, Reggie McKinley was actually building them a good team before he came on. And Jon Gruden forced him to like trade almost every player that he drafted. And then he fired him, and then they fired him the next year. They traded like almost all the players, or got rid of almost all the players that he had drafted. And Gruden was the enabler of that whole deal. And then the Raiders blamed him for everything that happened, and he got fired, and then that's how Mike Mayock got hired. Now, I'm not saying Mike Mayock's a bad GM. He's not. I think he's a pretty good GM. But at the same time, I think he got the job because they wanted someone else in there, and of course Mike Mayock is white. Again, that's a conspiracy theory, but no one's really bringing that up, though. No one's bringing that up, and I think that should be brought up. Is like he basically screwed Mike McKinley out of a job. He screwed Mike McKinley out of a job, or I'm sorry, not Mike. Reggie McKinley. He screwed Reggie McKinley out of a job, and I really like to wonder if it was racist motivated. I really would like to know if it was racist motivated, because all those players that he drafted that were actually good players, Gruden forced out. He forced all those guys out, and forced them to be traded. Alex was it? Amon Cooper. Amon Cooper was traded. That was Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack. That was the name. I'm sorry. Khalil Mack was a stud. He is a stud linebacker for the Chicago Bears. And Reggie McKinley drafted him. And he was a high guy. He overachieved expectations. And they didn't want to re-sign him to a multi-year deal. And so they traded him for a couple first-round picks, right, to the Bears. And that was someone Reggie McKinley drafted for the Raiders. Like, there were a lot of guys. Cooper they traded to the Cowboys, a wide receiver. And again, these were all Reggie McKinley draft picks. And they're all doing great right now on their other teams still. But Jon Gruden took all the players he drafted, got rid of them, and then he was blamed for the team not being successful. And Jon Gruden got a pass because he's got a 10-year, $100 million contract. How he can fire someone like that? And then he brought in the guy that he wanted, and that was Mike Mayock. And again, I like Mike Mayock. I think he's a good GM. Especially with, the success he did on NFL Network at the path to the draft. He was very good at figuring out who was a great player. He predicted that Aaron Rodgers was going to the Packers at 25th or 24th. He predicted that Aaron Rodgers in the 2005 draft was going to go to Green Bay, and thought he would be really good. Like, he was a very smart draft guy. He knew how to draft players. But I think he got him in and got Reggie McKinley out because he didn't like the direction that he was going in with the team as a general manager. He wanted it his way. Gruden wanted the team to be built in his vision. And so he outed Mike McKinley, or not, why did I keep saying, I freaking combining them, Reggie McKinley. He outed Reggie McKinley, traded all his players that he drafted that were all great players and still are great players right now on their other teams that they're on, and basically outed him the next year. I think that was racist. I think it was racially motivated. All these emails, they like, you cannot tell me it's not. Like, I can't think otherwise. Like him saying all these insensitive stuff. There was a pattern that led, I believe, until 2015 that he had been sending stuff, okay, to Bruce Allen and stuff like that. I had heard a report by that, and I'm like, I think the GM getting fired was racially motivated. I think Gruden wanted him out. Of course, Gruden would never say that to the Raiders, organization, but I think in his heart, he wanted Reggie McKinley out because he didn't like him. He didn't like his direction for the team, in terms of who he was drafting. Mike Mayock was someone more that, was someone he's seen on TV that was really good. And that's probably why he was more comfortable having him on over him. He was the head coach, but he had more power than the general manager did. Gruden got more power. Gruden, in his contract, he basically had the control of the team. So the GM had to follow, like, his direction. Mike Mayock was someone more that followed his direction than someone like Reggie McKinley. And I think that was another reason. I'm going to get a little off topic here, but I based on what he said in his emails, I can't not think that this didn't happen. And this is why Gruden got rid of Reggie McKinley. And no one's really talking about that. No one's bringing that one up. And I think that should be brought up. Just so many insensitive comments. And again, I think, I think he should be gone. Obviously he's gone, but, I don't think he should have been able to play against the Bears. I don't think they should have been able to play against the Chicago Bears, or him at least. I think they should have sat him out and then, pending an investigation and then fired him, or, obviously have him resign or whatever they had to do. But I don't think he should have been allowed to play now, because supposedly they knew the stuff was coming on Friday, even though only that one email had come out. Supposedly they had known. I think he should be gone. I think he should be gone. Not only gone, obviously he's not going to get a job with ESPN again or any other network. I doubt it very highly. Maybe in a couple of years he might, but I don't even think he should get that. To be honest with you, he ruined his reputation. He ruined his legacy. He ruined his reputation. He ruined his legacy. He ruined a huge chunk salary that he probably didn't deserve, but got. To put into this context, this guy makes more money than Bill Belichick does. All right, who's won 6 Super Bowls as a head coach. Okay, Gruden's won 1. Okay. And a lot of that wasn't even his defense. So, it is what it is, but, he needed to go. There's no way you can put him in a locker room with all those guys as being the head man of the team and let them honestly sit there and actually allow him to call plays for them. It's just, it just can't happen. There's just no way. And it's a rightful cancellation, in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. What do you guys think about this situation? I believe this was the right move. This is not a case of cancel culture. Absolutely not. Just very insensitive. And it's a terrible situation for the NFL to be in, especially when we're in the midst of a season right now. It's one thing for this to happen in the off season where, you have a chance for everything to blow over on some stuff, after it's over because it's in the off season. But when we're in the middle of a football season and this stuff is happening, this is just not stuff we want to see. We don't want to see this happen during the football season. We want to this to be over with and go, But, and move on to the NFL season. But when we're in the middle of an NFL season and this stuff's going on, this drama's going on like this, you don't want to see this. You don't want to see this, and this is a bad look on the NFL. And rightfully so, obviously, but it's not something, as football fans we want to see coming out. But it obviously had to. It was the right thing to happen. Obviously I would have rather seen him get fired, but obviously I'm sure they talked, and they just basically, he agreed to resign so he wouldn't be fired. But it's whatever, guys. Let me know what you guys think about this. Comment, rate. If you like this video, my videos, please subscribe. Hit that notification bell for all the latest contents. And that's about it. I am the SS Ultimate Goku Moderator. Peace.